The stars looked different this far from Earth. Captain Lee Minho stood on the bridge of the research vessel Harmony's Edge, watching the distant sun of the Kepler 442 system cast strange shadows across his ship's hull. 3 years into their deep space mission, his crew had grown used to the endless black between worlds, but today felt different. "Captain, I'm picking up something unusual," called Dr. Park Jisoo from her station. The xenobiologist's voice carried that excited tone she got when she found something new. After months of scanning empty space, any discovery was welcome. Minho walked over to her console. The screen showed a small moon orbiting the 4th planet in the system. Nothing special about it at first glance, just another chunk of ice and rock. But the energy readings made him pause. "What am I looking at, Doctor?" "These signatures don't match anything natural," Jisoo said, pointing at the data streams flowing across her screen. "The patterns are too regular, too organized, and there's something else. The readings are getting weaker every hour, like whatever is down there is dying." Chief Engineer Kim Tae-hyung looked up from his repair work on the communications array. "Could be a crashed ship. We've seen stranger things out here." Minho considered this. Their mission was to explore and document new worlds, not to investigate potential alien crashes. But something about the fading energy signature bothered him. If there was life down there, and it was dying, could they really just fly away? "How long to reach the moon?" he asked. 6 hours at current speed," replied Navigation Officer Cho Sung-hyun. "Set course. We'll take a look." The next few hours passed slowly. The crew prepared their equipment while the ship moved toward the mysterious moon. Jisoo ran every scan she could think of, trying to learn more about what waited for them. The energy signature continued to weaken, but it never completely disappeared. "There's definitely something artificial down there," she reported as they entered orbit. "The signature is coming from beneath about 50 meters of crystalline ice. Whatever it is, it's big enough to be a ship." Through the view screen, they could see the moon's surface. It looked peaceful, almost beautiful. The ice formations caught and reflected the distant sunlight, creating patterns of blue and white that seemed to dance across the landscape. But somewhere under all that beauty, something was dying. "I'm reading a very faint life sign," Jisoo announced suddenly. "It's weak, barely registering, but it's there." The bridge fell silent. In all their years of exploration, they had never found complex alien life. Plants, simple organisms, traces of ancient civilizations, yes, but never a living, breathing alien being. "Are you certain?" Minho asked quietly. "As certain as I can be with these readings. Whatever is down there, it won't survive much longer without help." Minho looked around at his crew. Young communications officer Han Minji was staring at the screen with wide eyes. Tae-hyung had stopped pretending to work on his repairs. Even, the usually calm Sung-hyun was leaning forward in his chair. "Doctor, can we safely extract whatever is down there?" "The ice won't be a problem for our mining lasers, but Captain, we don't know what we're dealing with. This could be dangerous." "Everything we do out here is dangerous," Minho replied. "But if there's a chance to save a life, we have to try." 2 hours later, they had melted through the ice and created a clear path to the buried object. It was indeed a ship, but unlike anything in their databases, the hull seemed to flow like water that had been frozen in motion, all curves and spirals that hurt to look at for too long. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing faintly with the same energy Jisoo had detected. "It's beautiful," Minji whispered over the comm as they suited up for the expedition. "Beautiful and alien," Tae-hyung added. "Everyone stay alert down there." The team consisted of Minho, Jisoo, Tae-hyung, and 2 security officers. They entered the alien vessel through what appeared to be an airlock, though it opened in a way that made no sense to human engineering. The corridors inside were tall and narrow, designed for beings very different from humans. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows as they moved deeper into the ship. The air was thin but breathable, though it carried strange scents that reminded Jisoo of ozone and flowers. Their scanning equipment showed the life sign was coming from somewhere near what they guessed was the command center. They found her in a room filled with broken crystalline panels and sparking alien technology. At first glance, she looked almost human, but the differences quickly became clear. Her skin was translucent blue, marked with dark veins that pulsed weakly. She had 4 fingers on each hand, and her hair moved as if underwater even in the still air. But what captured their attention immediately was what she held in her arms. It was small, about the size of a human infant with large dark eyes and covering that looked like soft fur. It was clearly artificial, obviously a toy or companion of some kind. But it moved slightly, as if breathing. My God, Jisoo breathed. She's holding it like it's alive. The alien female's eyes fluttered open at the sound of their voices. For a moment, terror filled her gaze as she saw the humans standing over her. She tried to speak, but only a musical sound came out like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Easy, Minho said softly, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. We're here to help. The alien looked at them with growing confusion. Her grip on the small creature tightened as if protecting it from these strange beings who had invaded her ship. But as the seconds passed and no attack came, some of the fear left her eyes. Jisoo activated her universal translator, hoping their technology could make sense of the alien's language. The device hummed to life, processing the musical tones and trying to find patterns it could work with. Can you understand me? Minho asked slowly. The alien's eyes widened. After a long moment, she nodded weakly. When she spoke, the translator rendered her words in halting, broken human speech. You not hurt? No, Minho assured her. We want to help. You're injured. Your ship is badly damaged. The alien looked around at the wreckage of her vessel, as if seeing it clearly for the first time. Her musical voice became sad and the translator struggled to keep up. Ship broken. Broken. But she looked down at the small creature in her arms. She dying. Please. Must help her. Jisoo stepped forward, her medical scanner ready. May I examine you both? The alien hesitated, then nodded. As Jisoo's equipment ran over her, the readings painted a grim picture. The alien was suffering from severe trauma, infection, and what appeared to be some form of radiation poisoning. But she was fighting to stay alive, and Jisoo realized why. The small creature she held was in even worse condition. It was definitely artificial, some kind of biomechanical construct, but it was failing. Its soft glow was fading, and its breathing was becoming more labored. We need to get you both to our medical bay immediately, Jisoo said. As they carefully lifted the alien and her precious burden, she looked up at Minho with eyes that held both hope and desperation. In broken words that the translator barely managed, she spoke again. My name, Kellen. This is everything I have left. The medical bay of the Harmony's Edge had never hosted an alien patient before. Dr. Park Jisoo worked carefully around Kellen, adjusting the equipment to accommodate her different physiology. The alien woman lay on the examination table, still, clutching the small biomechanical creature she called her most precious possession. Her vital signs are stabilizing, Jisoo reported to Captain Lee Minho, who stood nearby watching the proceedings. But she's been through severe trauma, malnutrition, radiation exposure, and what looks like combat injuries. She's lucky to be alive. Kellen's translucent blue eyes followed every movement the humans made. Fear still lingered in her gaze, mixed with confusion and desperate hope. When she spoke, her voice came out as musical tones that the universal translator worked hard to convert into understandable words. Where am I? She asked weakly. You're safe, Minho answered gently. This is a human research vessel. We found you crashed on the moon below. How long were you there? Kellen tried to remember, her brow furrowing with effort. Many days, many cold, dark days. The ship, broken. No power, no heat. I thought I would die there. What happened to your ship? Asked Chief Engineer Kim Tae-hyung, who had joined them in the medical bay. His practical mind was trying to understand the alien technology they had seen. Raiders, Kellen said, and her voice became filled with pain that had nothing to do with her physical injuries. They hunt us, hunt my people. We were running, trying to escape. She looked down at the small creature in her arms. It was clearly struggling, its soft glow flickering like a candle in the wind. Its large dark eyes seemed to look up at her with trust and need. "Tell us about your companion," Jisoo said softly. "What is it? How can we help it?" Kellen's grip tightened protectively. "She is Nuri. She is, how do you say, memory keeper, love keeper. She holds the heart of my daughter." The humans exchanged glances. The translator was struggling with concepts that didn't exist in human language, but the emotion in Kellen's voice was unmistakable. "Your daughter?" Minho asked carefully. "Siora," Kellen whispered, and tears began to flow down her blue cheeks. "My little star. She is 8 cycles old. When the war came to our world, I had to leave her with her father. I was taking supplies to the outer colonies. It was supposed to be safe, supposed to be quick." She paused, struggling with the pain of memory. "Before I left, Seora gave me Nuri. She said, 'Take my friend with you, mother, so you won't be lonely.' Nuri carries pieces of her. Her laughter, her dreams, her love. As long as Nuri lives, part of my daughter lives." Young communications officer Han Minji had been quietly listening from the doorway. Now she stepped forward, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "Where is your daughter now?" she asked. Kellen's face crumpled. "I don't know. The raiders attacked our homeworld 3 months ago. Communications went dark. I tried to go back, but my ship was damaged. Then more raiders found me. I had to run. I had to choose between finding my daughter and saving the supplies for the colonies." "What kind of supplies?" Taehyung asked. "Biocrystals. They power our technology, our companions. Without them, our people die slowly. Their memory keepers fade away, taking centuries of knowledge with them." Kellen looked at each human face surrounding her. "I chose to save many lives instead of searching for one, even if that one was my child. Now I may never see her again, and Nuri is dying because I cannot give her what she needs." "What does she need?" Jisoo asked, scanning the small creature with her equipment. "Love energy. Care energy. The bioelectric patterns that come from deep emotion. For my people, this is natural. We feed our companions with our feelings, our memories, our connections to those we care about. But I am too weak, too sick, too full of grief to give enough." The medical scanner showed that Nuri was indeed failing. Her biomechanical systems were shutting down one by one, like a complex machine running out of fuel. "How long does she have?" Minho asked quietly. "Hours, maybe less," Jisoo replied. Kellen struggled to sit up, her eyes wild with desperation. "Please," she said, her voice breaking. "I know what your people say about humans, that you are warriors, that you are cold, that you take instead of give. But I have no choice. Please, human. Take my toy. Just feed her once. Give her enough energy to live a little longer." "We don't understand your technology," Taehyung said gently. "How would we even begin to—" "You try," Kalen interrupted, her musical voice rising in pitch. "You must try. She carries all I have left of my daughter. Her first words, her favorite songs, the way she laughs when she's happy. If Nuri dies, those memories die forever." Minji stepped closer to the examination table. "What would we need to do?" "Touch her. Hold her. Feel love for something small and helpless. Feel the need to protect. Your bioelectric field might be different from ours, but emotion is universal." Dr. Jisoo shook her head. "It could be dangerous. We don't know how human neural patterns might affect alien biotechnology. The feedback could hurt both you and Nuri." "She's dying anyway," Minji said quietly. "If we don't try, we lose her for certain." Kellen reached out with one trembling hand toward Minji. "You understand. You feel the pain of loss. I can see it in your eyes." It was true. Minji had lost her younger brother in an accident years ago. She knew the desperate need to hold on to any piece of someone you loved. "I'll try," she said, ignoring the concerned looks from her crewmates. Kellen carefully placed Nuri into Minji's arms. The biomechanical creature was surprisingly warm, and Minji could feel a faint pulse through its soft covering. As she held it, She thought about Kellen's daughter, about the love between mother and child, about the need to protect innocent life. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Nuri's glow grew slightly brighter. Her breathing became steadier. The small creature made a soft sound like a contented sigh. Kellen gasped. "It's working, she's responding to you." Minji felt a strange, tingling sensation, as if gentle electricity was flowing between her and the alien creature. Images flashed through her mind. A blue-skinned child laughing, playing with crystal flowers, asking when her mother would come home. I can see her," Minji whispered in amazement. "I can see your daughter." Tears streamed down Kellen's face. "That is impossible. Humans cannot connect to our memory systems. Your species is too different, too aggressive." But the evidence was clear. Nuri was growing stronger in Minji's arms, and the young human woman was seeing fragments of an alien child's life. "Maybe," Captain Minho said slowly, "we're not as different as you think." Kellen stared at the humans surrounding her, her worldview cracking like ice in spring. Everything her people believed about these strange beings was wrong. They could feel compassion. They could love something that wasn't even their own species. They could sacrifice their time and energy for a stranger's desperate need. "Who are you people?" she asked in wonder. "We're just humans," Minho replied. "And sometimes that's enough." 3 days had passed since Han Minji first held Nuri in her arms. The small biomechanical creature had grown stronger under her care, but the process was taking its toll on the young communications officer. Dark circles rimmed her eyes, and her hands trembled slightly from exhaustion. "You need to rest," Dr. Park Jisoo said as she entered the small room where Minji spent most of her time with Nuri. "You've barely slept since this began." "She needs me," Minji replied, gently stroking Nuri's soft covering. The creature made a contented humming sound and snuggled closer to her warmth. "Every time I try to leave, she starts fading again." "Chief." Engineer Kim Tae-hyung looked up from the alien technology he had been studying. Over the past few days, he had been working with Kellen to understand how the biomechanical companions functioned. The results fascinated and puzzled him. "I still don't understand how this is possible," he said, gesturing at his notes. "According to everything Kellen has told us, human neural patterns should be completely incompatible with Valeth biotechnology. We process emotions differently, think differently, even dream differently." Kellen, who had recovered much of her strength, sat nearby watching Minji with wonder in her blue eyes. "My people have studied humans for years through distant observation. We believed you were a warrior race driven by conquest and violence. Your bioelectric patterns should be too chaotic, too aggressive for delicate systems like Nuri. But it's working," Minji said softly. "She's not just staying alive anymore. She's growing stronger." It was true. Nuri had changed over the past few days. Her glow was brighter and more steady. Her responses were quicker and more complex. Sometimes she would project tiny holographic images, flowers, geometric patterns, even what looked like simple faces. "There's something else," Minji added hesitantly. "I'm seeing more memories, not just fragments anymore, but whole scenes. I know what Siora's room looks like. I know her favorite foods. I even know the lullaby Kellen used to sing to her." Kellen gasped. "That's impossible. Those memories should be locked deep in Nuri's core systems. Only Siora herself should be able to access them so clearly." Taehyung made another note. "Maybe the connection is deeper than we thought. Minji, describe what you feel when you're connected to Nuri." Minji closed her eyes, focusing on the warm sensation that flowed between her and the biomechanical creature. "It's like being a bridge between two worlds. I can feel her need, her loneliness, her fear. But I can also feel something else, love, pure, innocent love that wants nothing but safety and comfort." "And when you respond to those feelings?" Jisoo asked. "I think about protecting her, about making sure she never has to be afraid or alone. I think about Siora wherever she is and how much she must miss her friend. I think about Kellen and what it means to be a mother who would do anything for her child." Kellen's eyes filled with tears. You understand the bond. Somehow, you feel what we feel. Captain Lee Minho entered the room, having overheard the last part of the conversation. Maybe that's exactly the point. Maybe the capacity for love and protection isn't as different between species as we thought. He sat down across from Minji and Nuri. I've been thinking about this since it started. We always assumed that if we met alien life, the differences would be insurmountable. Different biology, different psychology, different ways of thinking about the universe. But love is love, Minji said quietly. The need to protect something small and helpless, the desire to keep innocent things safe from harm. Maybe that's universal. Taehyung nodded slowly. It would explain why the connection works. Nuri doesn't just need bioelectric energy. She needs the specific pattern of thoughts and feelings that comes from genuine care. And humans can feel that just as strongly as Valith, Jisoo added. Sometimes even more strongly. Kellen looked around at the humans surrounding her, still struggling to accept what she was seeing. My people pride themselves on being civilized. We create art, we preserve memories, we value harmony above all else. We thought humans were barbaric because you fight wars and compete with each other. We do fight, Minho admitted. We do compete, but we also sacrifice ourselves for strangers. We adopt children who aren't our own. We risk our lives to save people we've never met. Like you did for me, Kellen said softly. Like Minji is doing for Nuri right now, he continued. She's exhausting herself to keep a piece of alien technology alive, just because she knows it matters to a mother she barely knows. As if responding to the conversation, Nuri suddenly projected a new image. It was larger and clearer than any she had shown before. The hologram showed Seora playing with other Valith children in what looked like a garden, but the image flickered and changed, showing the same garden empty and damaged, as if by war. She's trying to tell us something? Minji said, her voice filled with concern. Kellen studied the projection carefully. That's the children's sanctuary on our homeworld. It's where parents leave their young when they have to travel for work or military service. If Seora is there... She didn't finish the sentence, but everyone understood. If the sanctuary had been damaged in the war, Seora might be in terrible danger. Can Nuri show us more? Taehyung asked. Can she give us information about your homeworld's current situation? She's not designed for that kind of communication, Kellen said. She's meant to comfort and preserve memories, not serve as a communication device. But even as she spoke, Nuri was projecting new images. Maps of star systems, scenes of battle-damaged cities, groups of Valith refugees fleeing in small ships. The biomechanical creature was straining beyond her normal capabilities, trying to share everything she had absorbed from her connection to Seora. The child must have seen terrible things, Jisoo observed quietly. And now Nuri is processing those memories through her connection with Minji. Minji suddenly stiffened, her eyes wide with shock. I can hear something. Voices, crying. There are children trapped somewhere dark and cold. The holographic images became more frantic, showing underground tunnels and hiding places. Through the connection, Minji was experiencing fear and desperation that belonged to alien children she had never met. This is too much, Jisoo said, moving toward Minji with her medical scanner. The neural feedback is becoming dangerous. You need to break the connection. No, Minji said firmly, holding Nuri closer. These children need help. Seora needs help. I can handle it. But her vital signs told a different story. Her heart rate was elevated, her brain activity was chaotic, and she was showing signs of severe stress. Minji, Captain Minho said gently, but firmly, you can't save everyone by burning yourself out. If you collapse, you can't help anyone. Reluctantly, Minji loosened her hold on Nuri. The biomechanical creature's glow dimmed slightly, but she remained stable. The connection had grown strong enough to sustain itself, at least temporarily. We need to find a way to help those children, Minji said, looking around at her crewmates. All of them, not just Nuri. Kellen stared at the human woman who had risked her own health for an alien child's toy. You would do that? You would help save children you've never met from a species you barely understand? Of course, Minji replied as if the question itself was strange. They're children. That's all that matters. And in that moment, Kellen finally understood what made humans so dangerous to those who would hurt the innocent, and so precious to those who needed protection. They didn't love carefully or conditionally. They loved with everything they had, even when it cost them dearly. My people have been so wrong about yours, she whispered. And maybe, Captain Minho said quietly, it's time for both our peoples to learn the truth about each other. Han Minji woke up screaming. Dr. Park Jisoo rushed into the quarters where Minji had finally been convinced to rest. She found the young communications officer sitting up in bed, tears streaming down her face, her hands shaking as if she had just witnessed something terrible. What happened? Jisoo asked, running her medical scanner over Minji's trembling form. The raids, Minji gasped, struggling to separate the alien memories from her own thoughts. I saw them through Seora's eyes. The ships came in the night. There was fire and screaming and children running everywhere. You're safe, Jisoo said, firmly. You're on the Harmony's edge. What you saw was a memory from Nuri. But Minji shook her head. It wasn't just a memory. It was happening again. The raiders are still attacking refugee camps. They're hunting down children, Jisoo. They're taking them where? I don't know. The memories get confused and dark. But I can feel their terror. Jisoo's scanner showed alarming results. Minji's neural pathways were being rewritten by the constant exposure to alien memories. Her brain was adapting to process Valith emotional patterns, but the change was happening too fast and too violently. Minji, you need to limit your contact with Nuri. These memory transfers are damaging your nervous system. I can't, Minji replied desperately. Every time I pull away, I feel her panic. She thinks I'm abandoning her just like everyone else. And the children in the memories, they need someone to remember them, to care about what happened to them. Captain, Lee Minho entered the room having been alerted by Jisoo's emergency call. Behind him came Kellen, her blue face creased with worry. How bad is it? Minho asked. Her brain is essentially being rewritten, Jisoo explained quietly. The human nervous system isn't designed to process Valith emotional imprints. If this continues, she could suffer permanent psychological damage or worse. Keelan approached Minji's bedside slowly. I am so sorry. I never meant for this to happen. When I asked you to help Nuri, I didn't know it would hurt you. It's not your fault, Minji said, wiping her eyes. And I'm not stopping. These memories, they're important. They're proof of what your people have suffered. They're also killing you, Minho said bluntly. Minji, I order you to cease all contact with the alien device. She's not a device, Minji snapped, showing more emotion than anyone had ever seen from her. She's a repository of love and innocence and hope. She carries the laughter of a child, who might already be dead. How can you ask me to abandon that? Kellen sat down carefully on the edge of the bed. Tell me what you've seen. Help me understand what Nuri has shown you. Minji closed her eyes, letting the memories flow through her. Seora was in the children's sanctuary when the first attacks came. The caretakers tried to evacuate everyone, but there were too many children and not enough ships. Some of the older ones stayed behind to help the little ones escape. Seora stayed, Kellen said with certainty. It wasn't a question. She did. She helped carry smaller children to the ships. She was brave, just like her mother. But when the raiders broke through the sanctuary's defenses, she and a group of other children had to hide in the deep shelters. Are they still there? Some are, but the raiders found others. They didn't kill them, though. They took them somewhere else. Kellen's face went pale. The crystal mines. They're using children to harvest biocrystals because their small fingers can reach the narrow veins. Chief Engineer Kim Tae-hyung, who had been listening from the doorway, stepped forward. We need to report this. Contact the authorities in this sector. There are no authorities, Kellen said bitterly. The war has destroyed all the old alliances. Every faction claims to represent justice, but they're all fighting over resources while children suffer. Then we help directly, Minji said. trying to sit up despite her weakness. We can't, Minho replied. We're explorers, not a military vessel. We don't have the weapons or the manpower to fight raiders. But we have something else, Minji said, looking at Nuri, who had been resting quietly in a bio-support cradle. We have proof of what's happening. We have the memories. Jisoo shook her head. Even if we could extract those memories safely, who would we show them to? Who would care about alien children on the other side of the galaxy? We would, Minho said quietly. We care. The room fell silent as everyone considered the impossible situation. They had stumbled upon evidence of atrocities being committed against alien children, but they were powerless to stop it. Worse, their only source of information was slowly killing the person accessing it. There might be another way, Kellen said hesitantly. The biocrystals I was carrying when you found me, they're not just power sources. They can amplify and stabilize bioelectric connections. What are you suggesting? Taehyung asked. If we could create a properly shielded connection between Minji and Nuri, using the crystals to filter and regulate the memory transfer, she might be able to access the information without the dangerous neural feedback. That's extremely risky, Jisoo protested. We don't understand Valeth biotechnology well enough to attempt something like that safely. It's more risky to do nothing, Minji countered. Every day we waste, more children disappear. Sayora might still be alive, but for how long? Kellen looked at each human face in turn. Why do you care so much? These aren't your children. This isn't your war. You could simply return me to the nearest Valeth outpost and forget any of this happened. Because it's wrong, Minji said simply. Because someone has to care. Because if we don't stand up for innocent lives, who will? Your people really are different from what we believed, Kellen murmured. We thought you were conquerors who would see weakness in our scattered refugees and try to exploit it. Some humans might, Minho admitted, but not us. Not here. Not when children are in danger. Over the next several hours, Taehyung and Kellen worked together to design a safer connection system. They used pieces of Kellen's damaged ship combined with human technology and the biocrystals to create something unprecedented. A bridge between human and Valeth consciousness that could transfer memories without destroying the human mind. The crystals will act as a buffer, Kellen explained, as they prepared the device. They'll translate the Valeth emotional patterns into something your nervous system can process safely. Theoretically, Jisoo added grimly, we have no idea if this will actually work. Only one way to find out, Minji said, settling into the modified connection chair they had built. As the crystals began to glow and the connection formed, Minji felt the familiar warmth of contact with Nuri, but this time was different. Instead of chaotic, overwhelming impressions, she received clear, organized memories. She saw Seora's last days before the evacuation. She witnessed the child's brave efforts to help younger refugees. She experienced the terror of the raids and the desperate hope of the hidden children. But most importantly, she saw something new. Recent memories that Nuri had somehow acquired through her connection to other biomechanical companions in the area. A network of memory keepers sharing information across vast distances. There are survivors, Minji announced, her voice steady despite the tears on her face. Seora is alive. She's in a mining complex on the third moon of Kellen's home system. And she's not alone. There are dozens of children there. How do you know this? Kellen asked, hope and fear warring in her voice. The memory keepers talk to each other. Nuri has been receiving signals from other companions whose children are in the same place. They're leaving breadcrumbs, showing us the way. Then we know where to go, Minho said decisively. Captain, we can't possibly mount a rescue mission, Jisoo protested. We're researchers, not soldiers. No, Minho agreed. But we're humans, and sometimes that's the most dangerous thing to be when innocent lives are at stake. Kellen stared at them in amazement. You're really going to try to save them, alien children you've never met? They're not alien children, Minji said, carefully, cradling Nuri as she disconnected from the memory transfer system. They're just children, and that's all that matters. The alarm sirens aboard the Harmony's Edge pierced the quiet of deep space. Captain Lee Minho rushed to the bridge, where Navigation Officer Cho Seung-hyun was staring at his sensor displays with growing alarm. "Report," Minho ordered. "3 ships, just dropped out of hyperspace," Seung-hyun announced. "Unknown configuration, but they're massive. And Captain, they're moving straight toward us." On the main view screen, the approaching vessels looked like nothing in human databases. They were sleek and predatory, covered in the same flowing designs as Kellen's crashed ship, but built for war instead of exploration. Dark energy crackled along their hulls, and weapon ports glowed with menacing light. "Get me Dr. Park, and bring Kellen to the bridge immediately," Minho commanded. Within minutes, Kellen arrived, took one look at the approaching ships, and went pale. "Vorthak," she whispered. "He found me." "Who is Vorthak?" asked Chief Engineer Kim Tae-hyung as he joined them on the bridge. "The raider leader who destroyed my ship. He's been hunting me for months, tracking the biocrystal signature. I had hoped the crash would hide my trail, but we dug you out and brought those crystals aboard our ship," Minho finished grimly. The communication system crackled to life with musical tones that the universal translator struggled to process. When the words finally came through, they carried the weight of absolute authority. "Surrender the traitor Kellen and return our stolen property. Your compliance will result in a quick death for your crew. Resistance will result in educational suffering." Kellen stepped forward. "Let me talk to him. Maybe I can convince him to let you go." "No," Minho said firmly. "We don't negotiate with people who terrorize children." Han Minji burst onto the bridge carrying Nuri in her arms. The biomechanical creature was agitated, her glow flickering rapidly as she projected fragmentary images of fear and danger. "She knows they're here," Minji said. "She can sense the approach of the ones who hurt her family." "Captain," came Vorthak's voice again, "you have 30 seconds to comply. After that, we will take what we came for and use your ship for target practice." Minho looked around at his crew. They were researchers and explorers, not soldiers. Their ship had minimal defensive capabilities against vessels designed for war, but he saw no fear in their faces, only determination. "Open a channel," he ordered. "This is Captain Lee Minho of the human research vessel, Harmony's Edge. We have taken Kellen under our protection as a refugee. We will not surrender her to anyone." Laughter came through the communication system, cold and cruel. "Humans, we have heard stories of your species. Warriors who know nothing but violence. You will make interesting subjects for study after we capture you." "You're wrong about us," Minho replied calmly. "We're not warriors by choice, we're protectors by necessity. The distinction is meaningless. Prepare to be boarded." The 3 raider ships moved into attack formation. Energy beams lanced out toward the Harmony's Edge, testing its defenses. The human ship's shields flared and held, but everyone knew they wouldn't last long against sustained assault. "Evasive maneuvers," Minho ordered. "Buy us time to think." As the ship lurched into motion, Kellen grabbed Minji's arm. "There might be a way. Nuri has been receiving signals from other memory keepers, right? What if we could amplify those signals? What if we could show Vorthak and his raiders what their actions have really cost?" "What do you mean?" Minji asked, holding Nuri steady as the ship shook under enemy fire. "The memory keepers don't just store individual experiences. They're connected to each other, sharing the collective emotional experience of our people. If we could broadcast that network, show the raiders the full impact of their cruelty, they might not care," Tae-hyung pointed out as he worked frantically at his engineering console. "Some people are beyond redemption, but others might be following orders without understanding the true cost," Keelan insisted. "Many of the raiders were recruited from desperate refugees. They joined because they had no other choice." Another barrage of energy beams struck the ship's shields. Warning lights flashed across the bridge as systems began to overload. "Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it fast," Minho announced. Minji looked down at Nuri, who was projecting increasingly frantic images of children in danger. She wants to help. She's been storing not just Seora's memories, but signals from dozens of other companions. All the fear, all the loss, all the hope that still exists. But also all the love, Kellen added softly. All the bonds between parents and children. All the joy that existed before the war. That's what the Raiders have forgotten. That's what they need to remember. How do we broadcast it? Taehyung asked. The biocrystals, Kellen replied. They can amplify bioelectric signals across vast distances. If we channel the memory network through them, it could overload Nuri, Dr. Park Jisoo warned as she arrived on the bridge. The strain of broadcasting that much emotional data could destroy her completely. Minji held Nuri closer. Through their connection, she could feel the small creature's determination. Despite the danger, despite the fear, Nuri wanted to try. She carried the essence of a brave child, and that child would not hide while others suffered. She knows the risk, Minji said quietly. She wants to do it anyway. The ship shuddered under another attack. Their shields were failing, and the raider vessels were closing in for the final assault. Do it, Minho ordered. Working with desperate speed, Taehyung and Kellen connected Nuri's biomechanical systems to the ship's communication array, using the biocrystals to amplify and focus the signal. As the connection formed, Minji felt the familiar warmth of contact with the memory keeper network. But this time, instead of individual memories, she experienced something overwhelming. The collective emotional experience of an entire species flowed through her consciousness. Love, loss, hope, despair, and above all, the desperate need to protect the innocent. Broadcasting now, Taehyung announced. The signal burst out from the Harmony's edge like a wave of pure emotion. It reached the raider ships instantly, flooding their communication systems and overwhelming their crews with the true cost of their actions. On the lead ship, Vorthak staggered as the emotional wave hit him. He saw himself as the children saw him, a monster who stole them from their families, who forced them to work in dangerous mines, who destroyed their innocence for profit. He felt their terror, their longing for home, their desperate hope that someone would save them. But he also felt something else. The love that the memory keepers carried, the unbreakable bonds between parents and children, the determination of beings like Kellen who would sacrifice everything to protect the innocent. Around him, his crew was experiencing the same overwhelming revelation. Many of them had joined the raiders because they had lost everything in the war. They had become monsters because they thought there was no other choice. Now they saw that there was always another choice, always another way. Aboard the Harmony's edge, the strain of the broadcast was taking its toll. Nuri's glow was flickering wildly as her systems overloaded. Minji held her close, pouring every bit of her own emotional energy into maintaining the connection. The signal's too strong. The mining complex on the third moon looked like a scar on the landscape. Dark tunnels burrowed deep into the crystalline surface, and the air shimmered with the toxic residue of extracted biocrystals. Security towers dotted the perimeter, their automated weapons tracking any movement in the barren waste around the facility. 4 ships hung in orbit above the moon. 3 Valith raider vessels and 1 battered human research ship, united in purpose for the first time in their histories. Scanning the facility now, reported Dr. Park Jisoo from the Harmony's edge. I'm reading approximately 40 life signs. In the underground sections, most of them are small, consistent with children. Captain Lee Minho studied the tactical display with Vorthak, the former raider leader whose voice now carried shame instead of arrogance. What kind of defenses are we looking at? Automated systems mostly, Vorthak replied through the communication link. The overseers rely on the isolation of the location and the fear of the children to maintain control. They never expected a rescue attempt. How do we get in without triggering the security grid? Asked Chief Engineer Kim Taehyung. There are maintenance tunnels that connect to the old mining shafts, Kellen said, studying the scans from her position on the bridge. I worked in facilities like this before the war. The overseers always assume the children are too weak and frightened to attempt escape through those passages. Han Minji sat quietly in her chair, holding Nuri carefully in her arms. The biomechanical creature had survived the massive emotional broadcast, but she was different now. Her systems had been fundamentally changed by the experience of channeling so much raw emotion across space. She's still connected to the network, Minji announced suddenly. I can feel the other memory keepers down there. The children have companions, with them, hidden from the overseers. They've been keeping hope alive by sharing memories of home. Can Nuri communicate with them? Minho asked. More than that, Minji said, her eyes growing wide with realization. She can coordinate them. The emotional broadcast didn't just affect the raiders. It created a permanent link between all the memory keepers in range. They're working together, now. Through the ship's sensors, they watched as small transport vessels launched from the raider ships. Vorthak had volunteered his own troops for the rescue mission, former raiders who wanted to atone for their crimes by saving the children. They had helped imprison. Remember, Minho said over the communication channel as the rescue teams prepared to deploy. These children have been through terrible trauma. They're going to be terrified of anyone in Valith military gear. Let the humans make first contact. Understood, Vorthak replied. My people will secure the perimeter and deal with any overseers who resist. Your team will reach the children. The plan was simple but dangerous. While the former raiders created a distraction at the main facility, a small team consisting of Minho, Minji, Kellen, and 2 security officers would infiltrate through the maintenance tunnels and reach the children's holding area. As they made their way through the narrow passages, Nuri's glow provided their only light. The biomechanical creature was projecting a steady stream of calming images: peaceful gardens, loving families, the promise of safety and home. She's preparing them, Kellen whispered as they crawled through the cramped tunnels. She's telling the other memory keepers that help is coming. They could hear sounds from the main facility above, shouts, alarms, the discharge of energy weapons. Vorthak's forces were keeping their promise to create a distraction. There, Minji said, pointing ahead to where the tunnel opened into a larger chamber. I can feel them. They're scared, but hopeful. The chamber they entered was heartbreaking. Dozens of Valith children, their blue skin pale from lack of sunlight, huddled in small groups throughout the space. They wore rough mining clothes, and their hands were stained with crystal dust. But what struck the humans most was their eyes, still bright with intelligence and hope despite everything they had endured. A small figure detached itself from one of the groups and took a tentative step forward. She was perhaps 8 cycles, old, with the distinctive 4-fingered hands of her species and hair that moved like underwater plants. Seora, Kellen breathed, recognizing her daughter immediately. The child looked at the strange beings who had appeared in her prison. She had never seen humans before, but she recognized what Minji carried. Nuri, she said in a small voice. Minji knelt down and held out the biomechanical creature. As soon as Seora took Nuri in her arms, the memory keeper blazed with light and joy. Images flowed between them. Seora's memories of playing with her friend, Nuri's experiences traveling with Kellen, the long journey to find help. Mother sent you, Seora said, looking at the humans with wonder. She found the helpers she promised to find. We're here to take you home, Minho said gently. All of you. But their reunion was interrupted by the sound of heavy footsteps in the corridor outside. The overseers had discovered the infiltration and were coming to secure their valuable prisoners. Get the children to the escape route, Minho ordered his security team. Minji, stay with them. Kellen, help me hold this position. Energy beams lanced through the chamber entrance as armed overseers tried to force their way in. The humans returned fire, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. We need more time, Kellen said as she crouched behind a crystal formation, her captured raider weapon in her hands. That's when Minji made a decision that would be remembered across both species for generations to come. She connected herself directly to Nuri's network, not just as a conduit, but as a permanent bridge between human and Valith consciousness. The neural feedback was immediate and devastating. Minji's human nervous system wasn't designed for such integration, but she pushed through the pain, using her own life force to amplify the signal beyond anything that had been achieved before. Every memory keeper in the facility suddenly blazed with light. The children's hidden companions projected a coordinated emotional wave that swept through the complex like a storm of pure hope and determination. The overseers, who had spent months numbing themselves to the children's suffering, were suddenly overwhelmed by the full weight of what they had done. They felt every moment of fear, every cry for parents who might never come, every dream of home that they had crushed. But they also felt something else, the fierce love of beings who would cross the galaxy to save children they had never met. They experienced the determination of humans who saw no difference between their own species and alien refugees. They felt the transformative power of sacrifice made willingly for others. Most of the overseers simply dropped their weapons and fled. A few tried to continue fighting, but they found themselves unable to aim at children when every shot would echo through their consciousness as a violation of everything sacred. "Now!" Minho shouted. "Everyone move!" The evacuation proceeded quickly. After that, Sayora carried Nuri as she helped lead the younger children through the escape tunnels. Kellen stayed close to her daughter, tears streaming down her face as she realized her impossible hope had come true. But Minji was in trouble. The neural integration that had saved them was killing her. Her vital signs were failing as her brain tried to process the emotional experiences of dozens of alien children. "Disconnect her!" Jisoo ordered as they reached the transport ships. "I can't," Minji gasped. "If I break the connection now, the network collapses. The children will lose their memory keepers forever." "Then we'll find another way," Kellen said, firmly. She took Nuri from Sayora and pressed the biomechanical creature into Minji's hands. "You've given us everything. Now let us help you." Working together, Kellen and Jisoo used the biocrystals to create a stable neural bridge that could maintain the network without burning out Minji's nervous system. It was experimental and dangerous, but it worked. As the rescue ships lifted off from the mining moon, carrying their precious cargo to safety, Nuri projected one final image. It showed both species working together, human and Valith children playing side by side, and the galaxy itself made safer by the bonds forged in the depths of a crystal mine. 3 months later, Captain Minho stood on the observation deck of a new kind of space station. Built jointly by human and Valith engineers, it served as a refugee center and research facility, where both species could work together to heal the wounds of war. Kellen had become an ambassador, helping to negotiate the peace treaty that had ended the civil war on her homeworld. Sayora attended the station's new integrated school, where human and Valith children learned together. And Minji, permanently changed by her experience but very much alive, worked in the station's communications center, where she helped maintain the memory keeper network that now connected refugee families across the galaxy. "Any regrets?" Minho asked her as they watched ships arriving with more families seeking reunion. "Only one," Minji replied, holding the new generation memory keeper that Nuri had become. "I regret that it took a war and so much suffering for our species to find each other, but we did find each other," Minho pointed out. "And maybe that's what matters. Maybe that's what makes us human. Not that we're perfect, but that we never stop trying to do better." Through the observation window, they could see Sayora, teaching human children how to play a Valith game involving light patterns and memory. The children were